Hey, everybody out there. Uh, this is KB, aka Ryan. Uh, I think it's time for me to give you my full story. Um, I'm going to deliver it kind of like I would do a lead at AA. So, uh, here we go. I'm going to tell you what it was like before I got sober and what it was like, what happened that made me want to get sober, and what it's like now that I am sober. So here we go. So I was born in Kankakee, Illinois, aka Killikees, um, aka K3. It is the county that sits just below Cook County, which is Chicago. And, it's a small place, um, but the city of Kankakee is, I grew up in a neighborhood that was um, predominantly black uh, and Spanish and white. Uh, I remember when my mom went through her divorce with my stepfather. And, I don't remember feeling any emotion for that or going through anything like, hey, my dad just left. But he was there since I was a baby. He was a pretty good man, but he was cheating on my mom for years. And she found out and she left him. So we had to move from, the middle class part of the county to Kankakee, which was the hood. And there was gangs, there was a lot of drugs, high crime rate. One point in time, it got labeled the worst place to live in America. I think right after Gary, Indiana did. And so, that's where I grew up. I remember being in fourth grade, and I was one of two or three white kids in class, and you know, growing up, there was a lot of influence uh, from the black community, black culture. I loved it. My first artist I remember listening to was Michael Jackson, uh, and so there was times in my life I wanted to be black. I love the hair, I love the style, I love the music, and my best friends were black, and so I went through that phase in my life where you know I even used the N word, uh, you know, like I was one of them, and 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 so I picked up a basketball maybe fourth or fifth grade, and my sport before that was soccer, and I got really good at basketball, and and I owe it to playing with with the black kids in my neighborhood, my buddies. Um, I had one of the only hoops uh, for miles, in our neighborhood, and man, there'd be 20, 30 of us in the backyard just going at it in gravel in the alley, and so we balled and balled and balled, and that's how I got good at basketball, and so basketball became my love. Soccer was my first love, but I fell in love with basketball, and it was right around the time that Michael Jordan was doing his thing, winning all the championships, and so that became my idol was basketball and the superstars in basketball, and 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 when I lost my stepfather, you know, I guess maybe looking back that I was trying to fill that void, um, and I filled it in sports, and I gravitated towards my coaches a lot, and and they took me in. I had one coach in particular, Mr. P. Uh, he Coach P. He he took me under his wing. He brought me home from school. It's kind of like the movie deal. The movies that has the coach that takes extra time on that certain kid. He did that for me, and he made me feel special. And he told me all the time I was great, and um, took me home, picked me up, um, and and so I just continued. I always played a little bit above my age group, and so we had this Saturday morning open gym at the old busted up pillars in the middle of the floor, wooden giant backboard, uh, concrete gym in the basement of this Catholic school, um, just outside of Chicago, uh, that I went to school at. And, it was just at the bus line. So some days, most of the time, uh, I rode my bike or I got a ride. And I had to ride through some bad streets. And, so I saw a lot of stuff growing up. And so Saturday mornings were special. It was open gym at St. Pat's, old St. Pat's. And so I think I started smoking weed. Um, my my seventh grade summer going into eighth grade. And nobody knew it. It was my best friend down the street that I started with. He was a little older than me. And so I remember I stayed a night at one of my buddy's house, and I think we were drinking and smoking, and that next morning was open gym, and I never missed an open gym, and so I missed one, and that day, Mr. P, he had a heart attack on the floor and he died, and his funeral was real hard, but I found out at his funeral he touched a lot of people. He made, that special feeling I got from him that he made me feel special. He made every other kid feel special as well. And I got to see that, and I got to see how many lives he touched. It was just amazing. And so I went into my eighth grade year, I think, or my freshman year, and I wrote his name on my shoes, my socks, and everything like that. And I had high hopes of becoming a star basketball player. And I had some relatives, that had made it into college, D1 ball players, played overseas. I had uncles that played D1, and so I had high hopes. I thought I was better than my relatives, but I continued to smoke weed and drink and try to be the life of the party. I remember freshman year, I liked to dance, and I'm at a sock hop every Friday night after the home football game. We have a dance, and our football team was really good. They competed for state the majority of the time that I was there, and so I go to the sock hop, and this senior, he likes to dance. We're dancing, and so he invites me to a senior party, and I go, and I'm getting drunk and smoking and partying, and I liked it. And so I wasn't in football. I wasn't in a fall sport, or wasn't in a summer sport. And so you had to condition for basketball if you wanted to play basketball. If you weren't in a summer sport, you had to come to fall conditioning and condition to be a ball player. And I slacked off on that. And freshman year there was A and B teams. Nobody got cut. And so me and my friend, one of my good friends from grade school, we missed a lot of conditioning. And some days I didn't know what he was doing, but I was smoking bud. Excuse me. And so they cut us the first day of tryouts, and I was pretty shocked and mad, and coach just laid it out. He said, "You didn't want to come to conditioning. You didn't want to do what everybody else was doing. You didn't want to work hard." And I thought I didn't need to because I was talented, and my name too. Um, but apparently I did. So, I didn't know God um, until later on in life. I didn't have a father figure at that time. Um, my mom was dating a man, but he was more he was more of my friend. He was a good example. Um, he never did anything wrong to my mother. He was just a good example. He happened to be black, and so I had a sister, and my sister went to the public high school, and she was pretty, and wasn't too many white guys for her to choose from. So she started, the black guys started to be on her, and so she started to date black guys. So one day she's sitting in front of the television, and Oprah Winfrey comes on and says, she says, if your parents disagree with you dating outside of your race, give us a call. So my sister does. She's about 14, 15 at the time, and she's dating an older guy, and they're lying to my mom about the age. And I think he was like, I don't know how old he was, but he was older than what they said he was. And so my mom and sister go on to Oprah, and my mom was raised by a German Nazi soldier, like straight racist piece of crap. I never met him. He died early on. He used to abuse my grandmother and the children, and I think he died at about 34, 35 years old. And so I never met him. And grandma was a Spanish family, was immigrants, and so I don't think my grandma was racist, but my grandfather was. So he instilled that in the kids, and so my mom was against dating outside of her race, and so they go on the Oprah Winfrey show, and Oprah Winfrey show in Chicago, and we're living in a little 2-bedroom apartment, and my room is in the hallway leading to the kitchen. I didn't have a room, just had, mattresses, a bed sitting next to a wall going into the kitchen. And so I watch them leave from the window. There's about 30 stairs up to our apartment. And I watch them leave, and they go on there. And my sister's like, I'm dating outside my race. And my mom was like, I don't like it, and I don't want you to. So I think a year or two went by after her divorce, and she went out with a girlfriend who liked to date outside of her race. So my mom didn't drink much, but she got drunk. It was New Year's Eve, and she meets a white guy and a black guy, and she gives her number, I think to both. I'm not sure, but the black guy started calling, and I guess he didn't sound black on the phone. I don't know, but so she invites him over for pizza, and we played Uno that night. And I was about 11, 12 years old, and so when she opened the door, she was shocked that he was black. I didn't care, and so he came in, and she's been dating him for till now, 20. Let's see, I'm 37. I'd say roughly 25 years, and they've been together. And so Oprah calls back for an update show, and my mom's like, guess what? I'm now dating outside my race. And so they go back on the Oprah show and tell the story of how she changed her mind, and she's been with him ever since. So that's been like my father figure, and he's always been there, but always been like a friend, and never set really bad examples or anything for me. So I lose basketball freshman year. So I'm watching him play, and I'm like, oh, I would have done this, I would have done that. So sophomore year rolls around, and I was taking care of conditioning and everything and showing up and playing well, and I didn't handle my books. So for the first couple months of the season, I was ineligible. and didn't bring my grades up and said the heck with it. And I gave up and I quit. And so junior year rolled around and I didn't care anymore. I was getting high and I just gave up on my dream to play ball. And so I never played a lick of high school basketball. And it drove me crazy for years, for years. And and I started to want to replace that glory um, with drugs. And probably about 14 or 15 years old, I was introduced to cocaine. I was introduced to uh, ecstasy, a little bit of mushrooms, and I smoked weed and I drank. And and so I started to hang out with the kids that did that. And I dropped out of school and I went to the public school. And and then uh, I started to skip class. Um, I started to date girls, and I was dating before that, but um, the parents of my first girlfriend in high school didn't want me with her because I was trouble, and and so I just started to follow that crowd, and I started robbing and stealing, um, and and I continued using drugs, and you don't realize it when you're that age that this could become a problem, but it did, and and so I got arrested for the first time. The party ran out of alcohol, and I went and stole some, and they caught me. And I tried to run out, but they grabbed me up and cuffed me up, and that was my first arrest. So, know, my sister had moved to a different state next door, and and so when this was happening, my mom had called the community college there, and she found a program for me for dropouts that I could study for my GED and enroll in classes before my senior class even graduated. So I had received uh, a private school education up until junior year, and I was ready for it. And and I took the GED right away, and I passed it, and I entered into classes. But I got bored with that, and I kept getting high and partying, and I got arrested. And and so my sister had moved. She wanted to raise her kids outside of where we grew up. It was a bad place. Really not many opportunities there. No really hope, and a lot of crime. And so she moved. And then my mom, after I got arrested and I got my GED, she said, "You want to follow your sister?" I said, "Yeah, sure." So they're moving. They're in the process of moving. I'm kind of house sitting while they're moving, and there's a couple pieces of furniture left in the home, and we had a party, and probably about 10. Uh, I won't name the gang, but about 10 of them came in our home, and I rolled with the Roughnecks in high school, in the hood. That you touch one of us, you're fighting us all. So we were respected. I wasn't too much of a fighter, but they were, and I clicked up with them. And so the gangs in in the majority, which were black and Hispanic, they didn't mess with us because they knew they'd get beat up. They might catch us by ourselves one day and try to get us, but majority of the time we were together. And so they came in the house, and they're starting to cause trouble. And a couple things of my mom's that she collected got taken, and I just snapped off, and we beat up the whole party, threw them out the back, and so there was, I had witnessed some things before that the guys I hung around with did to people at parties, And so I, I had that party and that happened. I don't think my mom even knows that happened. And, uh, and so I moved to Indianapolis. I moved to Indiana. And a little while later, I called back home and, and my friends are being shot at and stuff. And, growing up, I grew up in the era that there wasn't too many people shooting. You know what I mean? They were still fighting with these, and and that's just how it went. And so, I realized that I got out of a bad place, and I was grateful for it. But I still thought about my friends back home, and and where that place was headed. And so, being in a new place and not knowing where to get drugs, um, not knowing anyone. Uh, but I grew up in a bad place, so I was aware. I was like, hey, I probably don't need to go looking for drugs. I probably don't. I'm not known in this city. Um, let's not go looking for trouble because I know trouble will be quick to find you. And and so I stayed on the right path. I got enrolled in school, and I got enrolled in school. Got a job, FedEx. I was doing well, but I had planted that seed for addiction and didn't know it. And so I still didn't have God in my life. Um, I grew up in Catholic church, so it was a lot of repetition and just boring. And it just wasn't right, you know, no worship really. And so, so I'm in a new place, and I run into, I play ball. I want to play college basketball, so I was trying to walk on teams. I was trying to walk on a team here in Indy, and it just never happened. Um, I ran into weed again, and I started smoking and getting lazy. And I had a lot of roommates that wanted to party, um, and I got involved with a girl, and she was foreign, and her parents really didn't want her with an American, but she was gorgeous, and she's a little bit younger than me, and so I kind of had the idea that when she got older, um, you know, she would realize how beautiful she was and leave me. So I tried to control her, and I wasn't physically abusive, but I was emotionally abusive and mentally abusive, and I tried to keep her, you know, on a leash, so to speak. And that just didn't work. You can't do that. And and so I went to jail. Uh, her parents wanted her away from me so bad that they took her and filed a protective order on me. And and I cheated on her a lot because she couldn't do a lot of the things I could do because I had turned 21. And so I was going to the bars and the clubs, and she couldn't come with me. And I didn't see her a whole lot, even though she lived next door to me in the townhome next to me. And I was in an apartment. And so, I cheated on her, I hurt her, and filed a protective order on me. We got in a lot of arguments because she caught me cheating a lot. And and we grew apart. And and so I went to jail for breaking those no contact orders a lot. and and so that relationship was just abruptly ended, just like the majority of my relationships before in the past. So I had a problem always letting go of girls that were in my life. I wanted a family, I wanted a relationship, a loving relationship, but I always forced it. And I was missing that in my life. My mom was a single parent, she loved us, but there wasn't too much affection growing up, so I guess I was lacking that. Um, and so I went to jail for it, and I got placed on house arrest and caught a felony for it. And so I'm mad, and I drop out of school because I'm like, I can't get a job in the corporate world. I'm in school for business, and it's just not going to happen for me if I got this background. So, but I found out later that's not the truth. God is ultimately the person that decides what's going to happen in your life. He can remove anything. He can open any door that that needs to be opened if he allows it. So, but I didn't have that thought process then, and so I got real depressed, and I started, and I found drugs, cocaine. Um, that also led me into serving and being more social, serving tables at the restaurant, which led me to bartending, which led me to nightclubs, bartending, which just led to the nightlife. Um, and uh, and that threw me into, well, I got time to get my life together, but I didn't. I was destroying my life. So I took a sales job, and I got really good at it, and like became the best salesman in the office within 30 days. I was outselling everyone. I would be in the car, and I would run out of my merch, and I'd start selling the guys next to me merch. And he'd be like, "What are you doing?" And I'd be like, "Man, I called the boss. He said start working on your merch. Help you sell it. We can split it." So I started splitting the cars with guys, and all the guys wanted to go out with me because they knew I'd sell mine out and that I would sell theirs out, and we just